Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy, and you're reading with Jimmy. This is Jimmy's 10-minute breakdown of a great short story by Edgar Allan Poe, The Fall of the House of Usher, subtitle Madness, Murder, and the House That Wouldn't Let Go. Welcome, everybody. And what if I told you that a decaying mansion, a mysterious illness, and a family's dark legacy combine in one short story to create one of the most haunting pieces of American literature? Yes, Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, a narrative where Gothic elements intertwine with psychological depth, leading to an unforgettable climax. So welcome to Reading with Jimmy's QuickTakes. I call these QuickTakes. They're 10-minute insights to get you to come back and read the whole story with me. We want to experience the whole story, but I wanted to give you a taste. So let's explore Poe's masterpiece of terror, madness, murder, perhaps, and the supernatural. Ready? The setting is a gloomy, isolated mansion known as the House of Usher, and the atmosphere of the house is oppressive, with decaying trees, murky ponds, and an eerie silence that sets the tone for the unfolding events in the house. And the main characters, we've got the unnamed narrator, the anonymous narrator, who's a friend of Roderick Usher, summoned to the house to provide his companionship and support to Roderick. And of course, there is Roderick, who's the owner of the mansion. He suffers from an acute sensitivity. He's very sensitive. And he's got a little mental turmoil going on. And of course, his sister, Madeline Usher, his twin sister, not just a sister, who's afflicted by a mysterious illness that renders her catatonic. You should look up the word catatonic, right? I mean, she looks like she's dead, but she may not be dead. The plot. Well, the anonymous narrator arrives at the house in a state, and Roderick's agitated. He's in distress. Roderick reveals that both he and his sister are suffering from a dilapidating ailments, and Madeline's condition is worsening. So after Madeline's apparent death, Roderick decides to entomb her body temporarily, because she may not be dead, within the house's vaults. And when you read that with me, you'll find out it's very interesting, that section. As days pass, both the narrator and Roderick experience increasing unease and strange things happening, knocking. In a climax and a revelation, Madeline emerges alive from her tomb, leading to the deaths of both Roderick and her sibling. He basically shows up. I don't want to give you the ending. You have to read it. So the narrator escapes just as the mansion collapses, ladies and gentlemen, symbolizing the fall of the House of Usher's family line. So what's the big deal? Well, Edgar Allan Poe, he blends Gothic elements with psychological explorations, and it delves into these few things I want to mention. Power of fear. How the mind can manifest terror in intangible ways. Did you ever try to go to sleep and start imagining things? Especially when you're a kid, maybe when you're an adult. Your mind starts going and you're imagining, you hear things. Family decay, the intertwining of an Usher family's physical and mental deterioration with their ancestral home. So, some of those great castles in England, right? This is an American short story. Supernatural ambiguity. What's ambiguity? It's nothing is clear. So it leaves readers questioning the line between reality and the supernatural. Is something weird happening here that's supernatural? So, some questions. Can you just accept everything this narrator tells you? We're going to explore that when we read it together. Why is he really there, this narrator? What's his real motivation for showing up when he shows up? He tells us it's because Roderick asked him to, is it? Pay close attention to the parentheses when we read together, because they're like little sidebars. They're clues or hints at what the deeper meaning is that the narrator wishes us to say. So here's a few themes. Madness. Roderick's descent into insanity reflects the impact of isolation and fear. We talked about isolation and fear in people, what it does to people. Or is he just nuts? Is he sick or is he nuts? Fear. Pervasive sense of dread. Oh my God. People like this. Oh my God, I can't go out. Something bad's going to happen. Fear can be both a cause and effect of mental collapse, right? If you fear, what's the whole Navy SEAL guy do? He overcomes fear. We're all afraid, but how do you overcome fear? Should you overcome? Can you overcome? The language of this short story is remarkable. Edgar Allan Poe, one of the most remarkable writers. You'll really learn a lot. Death and decay, physical disintegration of the house that mirrors the family's moral and genetic decay. So, how much of our reality is shaped by our perception and inner turmoil? We see things that aren't there. So why does this book matter today? Well, it was a 19th century Gothic horror story. You can read it as a horror story, but it really mirrors some of today's biggest fears. For example, mental health, still misunderstood, right? Roderick Usher's descent into paranoia. Our surroundings affect our minds more and more. Our surroundings, we're trapped sometimes in a toxic environment. Maybe you come from a, household that's not good. And the House of Usher is a setting, and it's a symbol of how mental states can be shaped. Show me, where you live, and I'll tell you who you are. That kind of thing. And fear is contagious, right? It's rational, but by the end of the story, even the narrator is not going a little wacko, right? Fear, anxiety, and then isolation, because Roderick and Madeline, they've been in this small, closed-off house forever, right? And so the story is a warning that too much of this isolation, physical, emotional, psychological, is not good. And then losing control, because the real terror isn't necessarily in ghosts or supernatural. It's the feeling that we cannot escape our fate. We're doomed. So the story is dissecting human fear. That's why these stories are so great. Now, this is a special note, because one of the things we're going to study is, did he kill his sister? This is an important question. Nobody talks about this when they read the story. So here's evidence that he did kill her. He buries her alive. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty suspicious. Because he knew if she's catatonic, right? Why does he seal the tomb? We're going to talk about this when we read it. He also admits that he knew she was still alive when they entombed her. He says it. So why did he close the coffin? He's terrified by her return. The descent into madness, his guilt is overcoming him. And he knows something's coming. And the symbolism of the house itself. By burying her, he's trying to kill the last piece of his cursed bloodline? I don't know. And then there's evidence that he didn't kill her, that he's genuinely afraid. If he murdered her, he wouldn't act he wouldn't act as guilty as he does, right? He looks like a man trapped by fate. And her illness, she's really got an illness. Kind of like, it's like tuberculosis, correct? It slowly eats away at you, and she's also catatonic. And the supernatural element, right? Is this a revenge story? Is Madeline taking revenge on him? So what do you think? Well, you got to read this story with me. Read it with Jimmy. Did he kill her, or was he just a victim of the household? Calling all readers. Come on now. I want you to read The Fall of the House of Usher with Jimmy. This is just 10 minutes. It's an introduction. You're on the website now. If you're reading this, just turn to the story and read it, or go to YouTube and listen to it, as some people do. They listen to it and pretend it's a podcast. And I want to leave you with this question. How do our environment shape our mental states? If you live in a certain place, how does that shape your perception of reality? Well, the way to test that is to go to a different place and live, right? Or drive through a different neighborhood and imagine yourself living in these different neighborhoods, right? Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com is my email. If you see something you'd like me to analyze, drop me a note. Thanks for listening. And quick takes before you go. This is what it looks like. You're on the website. Go there now. I read this story in 2 parts, okay, because it's a long story. So I didn't want to just read it in one shot. So I read it in 2 parts. You can always go to the second part quickly. And I analyze it in 3 parts. Jimmy, why do you take so long analyzing it? because it's complicated and I want you to appreciate it and understand it better. In fact, I add another interpretation, a complete interpretation, after I analyze it. The QR code is to my YouTube. Let's read it together. The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. And remember, where you live affects your point of view. That's all I'll say for now. Thanks a lot. Come on back and read this with me now.